Did he do it, right?
Yeah.
I know
He did
you've been heavy on social media talking about it.
He did it. And I'm the only one who's been vocal about this long before it actually.
Would you be open to a plea bargain?
Well, it's not up to me. It's up to Mr. Combs, and I don't see it happening.
Why?
Because he believes he's innocent.
More fallout for Sean Diddy Combs, and this time a major law firm has dropped him as a client. But why now? Well, we're going to talk with renowned celebrity attorney Bradford Cohen to get his take on this late.
50 Cent's new documentary about Diddy's legal team is certainly generating buzz, especially with the numerous accusations and witnesses coming forward. It's natural to wonder if Diddy's legal team is driven by financial gain or if there's more to their motivations.
Why is that not a fair outcome?
What he did here is on a magnitude of unlike anybody else you could imagine. A week after those public searches were televised, he gave us his passport. His children gave us his passport. He then paid off the mortgage entirely on his Miami home, $18 million. It's instructive that he's going to have a bail package ready so that if he was arrested, he would have something ready so that he could get out the next day and show the judge he's taking this very seriously, which he is, which is why 12 days ago, Chris, when we thought there's an indictment that may be coming, he flew to New York the very next day. And that's an extraordinary move for a defendant who's been under investigation that he's been aware of for at least 6 months. He has done everything somebody under investigation can do. I can't think of anything else that he could have done. He's fighting, he's innocent, and he's going to be able to show it.
Mark Anif, Diddy's seasoned lawyer, has taken a bold stance by rejecting the plea deal. This move speaks volumes about Anif's confidence in his defense strategy and his willingness to take on a more adversarial role.
Would you be open to a plea bargain?
Well, it's not up to me. It's up to Mr. Combs, and I don't see it happening.
Why?
Because he believes he's innocent. He believes he's innocent. And what's more, he believes that he needs to stand up, not just for himself or his family, and for everybody who's been targeted by the federal government.
The prosecution's allegations against Diddy have escalated, with claims that he exploited other inmates' phone codes to send clandestine messages. This purported rule-breaking has significant implications.
Also, Shauna, I'm curious as to your thoughts here on these allegations, right, of witness tampering. We've heard these allegations that he was, using other inmates' phone accounts to try to make phone calls in a way to make it so that they wouldn't be monitored. And there's also this concern that he might be trying to influence the jury pool via social media even while he's behind bars.
Absolutely, and I'm sure the judge really looked into that because although we know that these are allegations, there's been no evidentiary hearing as to whether or not these actually rise to the level of obstruction. Just the idea that he is not even following the rules that are enlisted by the prison is already a sign to the judge that he may not follow any conditions that are set forth. And so those type of allegations, whether or not there's been an evidentiary hearing, just speaks to the actions of the individual while incarcerated. And if you're not having good behavior at that time, the judge is going to look to say that, even if you're let out and left to your own devices, it's not going to get any better. So that has not played in his favor at all.
And Mike, if you can sort of read us in here on what this also says about the larger team around Sean Diddy Combs, noting here that the judge writes the sufficiency of any condition that would place trust in Combs and individuals in his employment, like a private security detail, to follow these conditions. I mean, they're really questioning everyone around him as well.
They are. And Kana, just listen to you and Shauna talk, I really began to think about not only his associates and who's on his payroll, but also Kana, his family. Sean Combs has a very strong immediate family with his children who also do hold a level of social currency and culture, and who also too are really influential on social media. I'm thinking about Kana recently. We saw that was posted on Instagram where the children were gathered around a table and was able to communicate with Sean Combs behind bars to wish him a happy birthday. And you can hear Sean Combs on the speakerphone. They're talking about the love they have for the father. The father is talking about the love that they have for them. So really signaling to any potential witnesses that his children are a tight unit, has great social media currency. Also, too, his sons are actually involved in the music industry, to which before he was arrested, his son made a rap song really questioning the federal government, really questioning potential witnesses to go forward against his father. So when you tie all those things together, you look at the social media dynamic, the social currency, the ability to use music to possibly influence and cross distress to amongst witnesses. That is all part of the safety to which the judge is talking about.
Judge Menon, presiding over Diddy's case, has expressed concern over the rapper's blatant disregard for prison rules. Rather than focusing on the content of the secret messages, the judge highlighted Diddy's willingness to exploit other inmates' phone codes, which is a serious red flag.
There, Judge Subramanian says there is evidence that Combs violated Bureau of Prisons regulations during his pretrial detention to obscure his communications with third parties. We talked about this a lot, how Sean Combs was using other inmates' PAC numbers to make calls, was using a private messaging service to reach out to people, was also engaging in three-way phone calls. The allegation was he was not only breaking the rules, but he was also doing it to reach out to potential witnesses in the case, maybe to try to influence potential jurors through a social media campaign. Now, this is interesting because Judge Subramanian writes the court makes no determination that the content of Combs' communications through these channels was improper. That's interesting. And this is something that he talked about in the hearing about, is it really bad he's posting things or having people post things for him on social media? So he's saying, I'm not really going to focus on the content of the communications, but, and this is something that we talked about in our prior sidebar, it was just the flouting of the rules that was the problem. He writes, however, his willingness to skirt BOP rules in a way that would make it more difficult for his communications to be monitored is strong evidence that the court cannot be reasonably assured as to the sufficiency of any conditions of release, especially given that they occurred when Combs was seeking bail and when he knew the government's concerns about witness tampering and obstruction were front and center. Yeah, really bad that he's doing this when he's already accused of obstruction and he's under the government's eye. But, and this is also interesting, you know another reason why the court was skeptical about Sean Combs being released? And, you know, Judge Subramanian at least kind of entertained what would bail look like, what would pretrial release look like. He went on a back and forth, and we'll talk about this in a minute, where Sean Combs' attorneys had said he has an apartment in New York, there will be private security. Well, here's what the court says. The court doubts the sufficiency of any conditions that place trust in Combs and individuals in his employ, like a private security detail, to follow those conditions. So, wow. So really seems swayed by the prosecution's argument that his private security team could probably be susceptible to manipulation.
The plot thickens. Diddy's alleged use of a third-party app to communicate with the outside world raises even more questions. It appears he may have had inside help to facilitate this secret communication channel.
Well, what about, they say, quote, the defendant also uses a non-authorized third-party messaging service called Contact Me ASAP to obscure his communications. The defendant appears to be using two Contact Me ASAP accounts. First, the defendant's BOP contact list includes a particular email address assigned to the defendant's son, which does not appear to be an account owned by the defendant's son, but instead appears to be an email address connected to Contact Me ASAP. Second, the defendant appears to be using another inmate's Contact Me ASAP account, primarily using email one. The defendant has exchanged hundreds of text messages via Contact Me ASAP with dozens of individuals, including attorneys and individuals who are not on the defendant's contact list. So any issue there?
Again, if he's contacting his attorneys, it's usually, it always is attorney-client privilege, unless there's a third party involved. Some people don't feel comfortable talking to their attorneys on jail calls, even though they know they're not supposed to be listening to those calls. I can tell you, they do listen to some of those phone calls. They're not supposed to. They might not use it in a court of law. But a lot of times you find that they oh, sorry, by accident, I didn't realize it was his attorney until I was 3 minutes in.
Right.
So I don't take much of that unless, like I said, unless they have some damning evidence that he is doing something crazy on those phone calls or he's doing something crazy on that application. Other than that, just using it
I guess the counter argument would be, putting aside what the content is, we'll get to that. If he's breaking the rules of the prison, right, this is not the prison, if he's breaking the rules of the detention center, should he be on the outside? Is he going to flout the rules of his bail? That would be the argument.
Yeah, I mean, that's a better argument, but the problem is that, quote unquote, breaking the rules by making phone calls and things of that nature, unless those phone calls are the prohibited thing. Like if I am calling a witness directly and having direct witness contact by using this kind of obscure messaging and things of that nature, 100%. But I think just because he uses third party calls, that's like, like I said, 99% of the cases do that.
Okay, so let me, there's just so much to get to, so I want to get through everything with you. So prosecutors have indicated that they will produce these calls to Combs and his lawyers through a filter team prior to what is a scheduled bail hearing on November 22nd, 2024. We're going to be covering that on Law and Crime. But then they write this. On multiple calls, often using the PAC numbers of other inmates, the defendant is explicit about his intention to use public statements to alter public perception. And the defendant leaves no doubt that the narrative he wants to leave is the potential jury pool's perception of this criminal proceeding. And examples of these efforts, they say, are plentiful. And then they black out and they redact all of those examples. First, Bradford, why the redactions?
Well, the redactions probably because they don't want it to then make it public what his position is. Like, I didn't do it. This one witness, she did X, Y, Z. I'm sure that there's things in there that the government doesn't want the public to hear because the government has their narrow view of what's going on, right? And whenever the defendant then wants to address that narrow view and put out his own statement or address it in a different way, they want to curtail that because they have a certain way to look at a case. They don't want anyone looking at it differently. I find this to be the most ironic thing. It's like it's hypocrisy at its best because although the New York Southern District office does not themselves leak things often, they have in the past, but in this case, I don't think there's any evidence that they leaked anything.
The viral phone call between Diddy and his kids, initially believed to be AI generated, may actually be real. Leaked details have surfaced, matching recent revelations and adding another layer to the ongoing drama. Conspiracy theorists are now speculating that Diddy's mention of pizza boxes could be code for something more sinister. Jay-Z has also entered the mix, facing accusations of shady dealings linked to the John deal.
I'm gonna need you to get rid of all the leftover pizza boxes. The what? All the boxes left over from the pizza. Did Jay reach out yet? Nah, Bob. He ghosted.
Jaguar Wright is speaking out against Jay-Z, openly discussing allegations surrounding his personal life and business dealings. Wright views the current wave of accusations as an opportunity for redemption following the backlash she faced after her interview with Morgan.
How do you feel about people constantly trying to drag Jay-Z into this Diddy situation when I haven't really seen like one piece of evidence that ties him to this at all?
Well, I would say this. It's kind of funny to me, man, is that Diddy used to hate Jay-Z. He hated Jay-Z enough when he was trying to get Ja Rule to go at Jay-Z. This is back in the early 2000s. And one day, Asner, Kushner, Diddy, and myself went to a Nets game and we met Jay-Z. I've never been a Jay-Z fan, you know, like some of his music, the whole 9 yards. But when we went over to the, I think that was Prudential Center in Newark, and him and Puff met up, it was strange to me. Because I remember what Puff was trying to do. And then both of them, they was talking about something amongst each other, amongst all of us, and laughing and joking with each other. Then over the years, I see them giving garden parties. You understand what I'm saying? you could tell that the people in power had gave that reign to Diddy, and Jay was next in line. So to separate him, when in fact they may be two of the same, but because Jay-Z is low key, that low key sneaky, and Diddy is and was rambunctious, just out with it. It don't mean that they not two of the same. One just a little quiet with it.
What happened at the basketball game? When they ran into, you guys ran into Jay-Z?
They were just talking. They was talking amongst each other about their little white girls. Their little skinny white girls.
50 Cent is adding more fuel to the fire, taking subtle shots at Diddy online while teasing his upcoming documentary. The rapper's hints suggest that he's been holding back his most explosive revelations for the big screen.
It's now being talked about louder than ever. I guess, does that give you some peace to know that people are finally really questioning this man?
It's emboldening me. I spoke on Piers Morgan. I said that I had 3 victims that I've been working with, victims of the Carters, that were ready to come forward. This might help them feel a little more confident now. So this is great because he's been evading. But the thing is, everyone in the backdrop knew that he was the celebrity John Doe. Everybody knew that. They knew it when I did Piers Morgan.
Is Beyonce celebrity B?
I hope to God not. But she was around. And she's very... she's got enough on her plate. After everything that happened with the election and everything that's happening right now, I'm not going to dump on that woman. She got better fish to fry.
Well,
what I will say is that her husband, she knows exactly who he is.
Yeah.
She knows. She knows.
I want to give you props though, because on your channel, which I want to plug, you Jaguar Right Effect, you guys can support it. You posted last night, your first response was reposting the unedited Piers Morgan interview, which I found very ballsy and very telling. And again, this is where it all came from, where Piers Morgan was scared by Alex Spiro, Jay-Z's attorney, proving they are watching and they're being litigious. I got to watch my back, Jaguar. I appreciate you getting that. And I don't want to lose my platform. I can't afford Alex Spiro.
I wouldn't want that for anyone. I don't want anyone to lose their platform.
He's good. He's good too. Right or wrong.
He's real good.
What I wanted to take this video for is we're going to have Jaguar live tomorrow around 4 p.m. Eastern. She's coming back for a long form conversation. We're going to hear plenty. If you got questions, come ask them. Jonas, tomorrow, hit the subscribe. Jaguar, I want to do a victory lap for you here. I want to say, because people say you're being crazy. The reality is I think you were onto something before a lot of us, specifically about Jay-Z. And there are some clips I want to watch with you, particularly one of Rihanna that really freaked me out. This clip, guys, if you haven't seen it, which I hadn't seen it until this morning when I saw this headline, Kim found it for me. Let's watch this clip quickly.
Crazy
Let's
that you
watch
haven't
Tyra
seen
pushing
this.
To get this out of Rihanna, and when it does, man, it made me feel very, very uncomfortable.
Audition. Yeah. But before I met him, I was so nervous. I was shaking literally. But the moment I walked into the office, the atmosphere was so warm and welcoming.
You had to sing a cappella for him?
Yes, I had to sing. I sang Fun to Replay. I sang another ballad from the album last time.
So then what did he say to you? He said something to you.
Oh yes, he said, we don't sing songs here, we sing artists. And there was this little pause, and I was nervous. But then he said, and we're interested. And there was this sudden feel of relief.
But then he said something about a window and a door.
Oh, then he said, he did it homework.
I did a lot of homework on you this lady.
He said, there are 2 ways to leave here, either through the door with the deal signed or through this window, and we're on the 29th floor.
So you was like, where's the pen? Where's the paper? I'm signing. Yeah.
The audience is so uncomfortable. Like, I don't know if Tyra was trying to get that on the record, but my God, what Jaguar? He threatened her. This is her own words coming out of her mouth, and she was a kid at that time, correct?
15-year-old girl who had been flown to the United States without parental supervision or a chaperone, brought to a grown man's office in a large corporate Manhattan building. Everybody knew when she flew in. I was there the day she got signed. Everyone was talking about it. And the 6 hours that she spent with him and the 4 hours that she spent alone with him with no parental supervision. Her father didn't show up till the next day to come and collect the check.
Well, and
this isn't her life.
The rumors were even beyond that, right? That Jay-Z was cheating on Beyonce with her when she was
Very much
17
so.
is what a lot of this came out through a publicist who later then
Have
had
you
to
spoken
apologize.
to my friend Jonathan Hay? You should talk to Jonathan.
Please.
Because Jonathan was there. He was right there working with Rihanna. And it was right when they started crafting her to be seen as a brand and commodity only and not a person. And when I talk to Jonathan now, just to hear him when he thinks of his teenage daughters, he was like, Rihanna was the same age my girls are now. I couldn't imagine putting my daughters through what we put her through. And then the next thing you know, she was removed from that first team from Pound the Replay and replaced with all new handlers and kept sheltered in Los Angeles, where she was going out to parties and partying at 15, 16, 17 years old, hanging out at the Rainbow Room, hanging out. Yeah, like it was one of my friends who found out she was 17 when everyone thought she was 21. And he was like, yo, why do y'all got me carrying this girl around and she's, it's cool, it's cool.
A detective who worked on the Tupac case has shed new light on Diddy's past, revealing why he managed to avoid jail time. Furthermore, the detective's insights into Diddy's behavior during the Biggie Smalls investigation have raised eyebrows, suggesting that Diddy's priorities were more focused on self-preservation than grieving the loss of his friend.
They think Mr. Cheeks is puffy.
See?
Why you gotta bring
Why
that
would you
up?
say? What do you mean?
They think the
man.
kids think Mr. Cheeks is puffy.
Oh,
No.
voice-wise?
No, the
No,
name.
Oh.
The name, bro.
Oh
no,
my
bro. Come
God.
on,
You say
man.
Mr. Cheeks, they think you're talking about puffy.
No, we're
See,
talking.
why did
this-
you-
They do not know what that is. This is it's too early. I'm just saying to you, let's just lighten up,
I
be a
was
little
trying
bit
to-
more youthful.
Listen, you have a lot of amazing things going on.
Yeah.
Right?
Residency in Vegas.
Residency in Vegas. I wanted to talk
That's
about
gonna be
what you're
fun,
doing in
too.
Baton
Yeah.
Rouge, the whole business, I want to talk about that. I did not want to get into Puff.
I know, but as soon as I
documentary.
see you, I feel like we're supposed to fight.
Why?
Because he
Because he
ruined.
knows he's responsible.
No, he's ruined
He
hip
knows
hop
he's
culture. Look
responsible.
at this. New York City culture music is damaged because of him specifically. He was the program director. Now, when I say people respond, how people respond to things matter. Like the internet will take to it and just go off with it. Meek responds being the uncomfortability. He goes, "Yo, nah, I gotta spend $100,000 to find out why my name is in this like this, and it's in it only because he's uncomfortable." You don't hear him talking about French. French was right there, right? Why you get so quiet? You guys make me feel like I'm scared.
Well,
we're listening.
I mean,
Now, do understand that I don't believe everybody.
Right.
Like the accusations are way too
wow.
fast, and it's wow. Like it's like I'm like,
Meek Mill tweeted, I want to hire an investigative team to find out every specific detail involved with Meek Mill named to Diddy case. I also want to look at who's powering the media involved with Meek, anything to do with Buddy. And ends in quote, something not right.
Rumors are circulating online about a possible connection between Aaron Carter's death and Diddy. These theories suggest that Diddy might have had a role in Carter's passing, although it's essential to note that there's no concrete evidence to support these claims.
Perceptions have changed slightly, gradually over time. Today, I look at Diddy with through a different lens than I might have 10, 15 years ago. There were obviously some early red flags, but it's a complicated thing because we have to be very careful about falsely accusing people or even, making accusations based on nothing more than speculation. And we just haven't seen all the evidence. So I prefer to kind of withhold judgment on some things. I can tell you regarding Diddy back when Tupac Shakur and Biggie Smalls were He wasn't exactly cooperative. He didn't do what you would assume a friend or, a manager, so to speak, would do. So from a law enforcement perspective, he was very unhelpful in an area where he ought to have been contributing towards getting some type of justice in those two cases. But as we found out in time, he was complicit in one of them, and which would make sense why maybe he didn't cooperate in the other, because the two were, they were just, we always understood that they were somehow interconnected. And so if you're going to cooperate or provide information on one and you're culpable in the other, one thing could lead back to the next. And that's where I think he understood his own vulnerability. It's 1995, I believe it was.
And then Tupac was shortly after that, and then Biggie shortly after that. Within a year or two.
Yeah, Tupac killed in September of 96 and Biggie killed in March of 97. But there was all kinds of other drama and hostility and gunplay that had taken place.
It seems like the drama is indeed escalating, with more names being drawn into the controversy and new allegations emerging. The situation is becoming increasingly complex, with various parties involved and different narratives unfolding. As the story continues to unfold, it's likely that more shocking revelations will come to light.